By 9 in the morning, my dad was outside my door, fist slamming, voice shaking the walls, yelling my name like I owed him the world. Ellie stood behind me in her pajamas, wide-eyed, holding the drawing she made for Christmas. But scenes like this don't start with shouting. They start quietly with one text, one decision, one line that changes everything. Mine began the moment my mom wrote, "We're skipping your kid's birthday. Things are tight," and ended with a truth my family never expected me to uncover. Before I start, tell me where you're listening from, so I know I'm not alone. My name is Scarlett, and for most of my life, I've survived by lowering my expectations, especially when it came to my parents. It sounds dramatic, I know, but when you grow up being the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who fixes everything without being asked, you learn to swallow disappointment like it's part of breakfast. I live in a small apartment near the coast where the air always smells a little like salt and old pine. It's not fancy, but it's warm, bright, and mine. Just enough space for me and my daughter Ellie, who fills every corner with drawings and glitter, and that soft humming she does when she's happy. The morning my mom texted, Ellie was sitting at the table coloring a unicorn wearing a crown. She looked up at me with those hopeful eyes, the same one she's had since she was little, the one she inherited from me, though hers still hold more light. She asked if Grandma and Grandpa were coming to her birthday this year. I told her I hoped so. I hadn't even finished slicing the strawberries for her lunch when my phone buzzed. "We're skipping your kid's birthday. Things are tight." No explanation, no apology, just a statement tossed at me like a receipt. I stared at the screen for a long moment, trying to steady my breath before Ellie could notice anything in my face. I typed back, "No problem." Because what else do you say when the people who should care simply don't? But it wasn't no problem. Not for me and definitely not for Ellie. I went through the rest of the day pretending everything was fine. I helped Ellie glue sparkles to her drawing, answered work messages, ignored the pinch in my chest every time I remembered that text. I tried to be rational. Maybe my parents were struggling financially, maybe something came up, but then I remembered the years I spent covering their phone plan when Dad lost another job. The months I paid their insurance so they'd keep their car running. The repairs, the late night calls, the emergency money that always seemed urgent until I needed help. My parents loved to talk about family loyalty, mostly when they needed something. Ellie's birthday came that weekend. She wore a little purple dress and asked if we could make cupcakes instead of buying a cake. I set up a tiny picnic blanket in our living room because rain was slanting against the windows. We played her favorite music, opened a few small gifts I'd saved up for, and invited 2 of her school friends whose parents were kind enough to drop them off. She laughed, danced, and tried so hard to enjoy every second. But when the day slowed down and her friends went home, she walked over to the table, picked up a cupcake, and stared at the single candle I'd saved just for her. "Maybe next year," she whispered. She didn't cry. She just cleaned up the glitter and moved on the way kids do when they don't want you to worry. But something in me shifted that night. Not anger, not yet. Just a quiet ache that felt too familiar. Christmas came faster than I expected, the way it always does when you're juggling work, bills, and a child who counts down the days with paper rings she tapes around her wrist. Ellie woke up early that morning in her red pajamas, clutching the drawing she'd made for my parents. 2 grandparents holding hands with a little girl between them. She'd even drawn a tiny heart above their heads. She sat by the window waiting, legs tucked under her, humming softly like she was trying to keep hope warm. I made cocoa, kept checking my phone, kept pretending I wasn't checking. Noon came 2, then 3. Not a call, not a message, not even an accidentally sent emoji, just silence thick and familiar. "Maybe they're busy," I said, trying to sound light. Ellie nodded, but her shoulders dropped the way they do when she's fighting disappointment. When she finally drifted to the living room to watch a movie, I opened my laptop. I shouldn't have. Some part of me knew better. But habit is stubborn, especially when you've spent years trying to convince yourself your family is better than they are. The moment the screen lit up, I saw it. A Christmas tree taller than their living room ceiling. Piles of wrapped gifts spilling across the floor. Balloon arches twisting over the doorway. My sister Marissa's kids tearing into presents like it was a commercial shoot. My mom was in the background holding a glitter-covered box, smiling so wide her eyes almost disappeared. Above it all, her caption floated like a punch. "So blessed to be with our favorite little ones." Favorite. The word hit harder than any insult could. It was casual, thoughtless, true, apparently. I didn't know Ellie had walked up behind me until I felt her hand on my arm. She saw the screen, saw the balloons, saw the joy she wasn't part of. She didn't say anything at first. Her little face went still in a way no 7-year-old should. Then she whispered it. "They forgot me again, didn't they?" I swallowed hard, but no words came out. I pulled her close, but she stayed quiet, staring at the bright, happy faces on the screen. The same faces that couldn't bother to send her a simple message. For the rest of the evening, I moved through the apartment like a ghost. I reheated dinner. I folded blankets. I answered emails I barely read. Ellie played with her paints at the table, brushing gold and navy across a page until the colors blurred together. Every so often, she'd glance at the window, then look back, her little fists tightening. Later that night, after she fell asleep beside me on the couch, I sat alone in the dim light of the hallway. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, pressing against my ribs, reminding me of every bill I'd paid, every late night call I'd answered for my parents, every time I'd put myself last because family needs you. And for what? A skipped birthday ain't Christmas. A daughter learning way too early that love can be lopsided. Something in me didn't just crack. It aligned. A clean, sharp line between what I'd accepted all my life and what I would no longer allow. I woke up the morning after Christmas with a strange kind of clarity. Quiet, steady, almost unnerving. The apartment was still, the kind of stillness that comes after a long night of pretending everything is fine. Ellie was curled up on the couch, holding the gold and navy painting she'd made the night before. I tucked a blanket around her, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, and just stood there for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle in my chest. Then I turned on my laptop, not for work emails, not to scroll, not to make excuses for people who had stopped deserving them. I opened the Payments tab. Years of automatic transfers stared back at megaphone plans, insurance, memberships, small emergency amounts that had turned into routines. It was a map of every time I tried to keep the peace, every time I believed helping them would mean they'd finally show up for us. My hand hovered for a second. Not from fear, but from realization. I just quietly did this. I clicked the first one, cancel, and the next, and the next. A chain reaction of liberation. No dramatic music. No shaking hands, just a calm I hadn't felt in years. By the time the sun rose, everything they depended on me for was gone. Not out of revenge, but out of necessity, out of protection for me and for Ellie. If they couldn't show up for a 7-year-old girl who loved them with her whole heart, they didn't get to live off mine. Around mid-morning, my phone buzzed. Not my parents, of course not. It was my sister Marissa, Scarlett, Dad saying Mom's crying. Everything got shut off. Did you do something? Her voice wasn't accusatory. It was tired, familiar. A voice that knew exactly what our parents were capable of. I'm just done. That's all. There was a long pause, then a soft good. The rest of the day passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. I cleaned the kitchen, washed the paint brushes Ellie had left in the cup, folded laundry. Ordinary things, but each one felt different, lighter. Like I was finally living in a home where every corner belonged to us, not to obligations I never agreed to carry. That night, I helped Ellie put her new books on the shelf. She didn't mention my parents. She didn't ask why they never called. She just leaned against me and said, I like when it's just us. And I realized something. This quiet life without chaos knocking at the door was what she deserved all along. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know how my dad would react when he figured out everything was gone, but I knew he would. People like him always do. And I also knew this: the calm before the storm is real. It's soft, deceptively gentle, and it gives you just enough time to breathe before everything erupts. The next morning, at exactly 9 o'clock it did. The pounding began, sharp, furious, rattling the frame of my front door like someone trying to break it down. Ellie startled, nearly dropping the cereal bowl in her hands. I pulled her gently behind me, my heart steady but heavy. I knew who it was before he even yelled my name. Scarlett, open this door, now. Howard's voice slammed the hallway, loud enough that a neighbor cracked open their door, then quickly retreated. I took a slow breath and unlocked mine, but only opened it half an inch. His face filled the gap, red, wild, the kind of fury that comes from losing control of something he thought he owned. What did you do? He spat. The phone's dead. The insurance is gone. Even the damn membership. You think this is funny? Behind him, Linda hovered with her purse clutched to her chest, eyes darting between us like she wanted to speak but had forgotten how. And standing slightly off to the side were Valerie and Tessa, my aunt and cousin, arms crossed, ready to judge before hearing a single word. I didn't flinch. Everything I paid for, I said softly. I stopped paying for. Howard shoved the door wider with his palm. I blocked it with my foot so he couldn't enter. His eyes flicked past me toward Ellie, who was peeking from the hallway. You're dragging her into this, he snapped. You're poisoning her. You're trying to turn her against family. Family. The word almost made me laugh. You mean the same family who skipped her birthday because things were tight, then posted a Christmas celebration with balloon arches and mountains of gifts for Marissa's kids? Valerie huffed. That's not the point. You're being dramatic. Tessa chimed in, arms folded. Everyone's talking about how you're overreacting again. You always make things bigger than they are. Ellie stepped out from behind me, small but steady. They forgot me, she said quietly. They forgot me again. The hallway fell silent. Howard looked away first. Then he scoffed, shaking his head. Kids don't understand these things. Adults have responsibilities, bills, priorities. Exactly. I cut in. And for years I covered yours. His face twisted. What the hell are you talking about? I stepped all the way into the doorway, now letting the truth settle between us. The phone plans, the insurance, the repairs, the emergency money. Every time you needed something, you called me and I paid it without question. Linda winced. Valerie frowned. Tessa murmured something. Everyone helps their parents, she said. I held up a hand. But when Ellie needed you, when she stood at the window on her 7th birthday waiting for you, when she made that drawing for Christmas and sat there in her pajamas holding on to hope, you didn't. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You gave her nothing. Not a call, not a message. Nothing. Howard's jaw twitched. We were busy, I said. Busy celebrating Marissa's kids. Busy posting about your favorite little ones. Busy making her feel invisible. Linda finally spoke, voice thin. We didn't mean. I didn't let her finish. You never mean it. But you do it anyway. Howard's anger flared again. None of this explains why you shot off everything without warning. Oh, I said, tilting my head. That's not the real crisis, is it? His eyes narrowed. What are you implying? I stepped back inside, grabbed the printed packet I'd left on the entry table, and returned to the door. I held it out to him. He didn't take it, but he read the top line. His face blanched. It's a loan application, I said, in my name, using my identity with your address and your phone number. Linda gasped. Valerie's eyes widened. Tessa muttered, oh my God. Howard stammered. That was a misunderstanding. You forged my signature, I said, and you took nearly $8,000. His mouth opened then closed, wrists shaking, voice cracking. You didn't need it as much as we did. The hallway felt colder suddenly, as if those words drained the last warmth out of the air. Ellie stepped closer, pressing her shoulder into my leg. I rested my hand on her head. You stole from your own daughter, I said quietly. And you justified it because you thought I wouldn't fight back. Howard lunged forward like he wanted to grab the papers, but I pulled them away. He wasn't fast enough, he never had been. Not when it came to responsibility, accountability, or basic decency. You listened to me, he snarled. If you file anything. Already did, I said. I filed a report yesterday morning. I attached the documents, the handwriting samples, the transfers, the whole thing. Whatever happens next isn't up to me. Linda covered her mouth. Valerie whispered something like a prayer. Tessa took a full step back. Howard looked stunned. Not defeated, but shocked that the one person he counted on to stay quiet finally chose not to. You wouldn't, he said, but it was a plea now, not a threat. I met his eyes, calm and leveled. I would do anything to protect my daughter, even from you. There it was. The power shift. The moment he realized I wasn't his fixer anymore. I wasn't his safety net. I wasn't the girl who said no problem while bleeding internally. Ellie tugged my sleeve. Mom, she whispered. Can we close the door? Yes, baby, I said. I held Howard's gaze for one last second. Just long enough for the truth to land. And then I shut the door. This time he didn't try to stop it. He didn't have the right. The silence after the door clicked shut was almost unreal. Thick, heavy, but clean in a way I hadn't felt in years. Ellie leaned into me, her little hand still wrapped around the hem of my sweater. I carried her back inside, locked the door, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the lock click. For us, not to keep someone out. Over the next few weeks, everything shifted. My parents didn't show up again. Not with apologies, not with explanations, not with last-minute attempts to fix what couldn't be fixed. Instead, distant relatives sent passive-aggressive messages about family unity, then quieted when I didn't respond. Valerie posted vague quotes online about disrespectful daughters, and Tessa eventually deleted half her comments when people started asking questions she couldn't answer. Marissa was the only one who checked in genuinely. She dropped by with groceries one evening and admitted she hadn't been shocked about the loan. Dad tried something similar with me a few years back, she said. I said no, but you didn't get the chance. It wasn't comforting, but it was honest. Meanwhile, life inside our apartment softened. Ellie began painting again. Big swirls of color, brighter than the ones she'd made in December. When her school announced the winter art show, one of her pieces was selected for the front display. She stood beside it with her hands clasped behind her back, smiling in that quiet, proud way she has. Her teacher said she had a gift. I believed her. I got a raise at work too. New responsibilities, more stability, a future that didn't depend on bailing anyone else out. Our home felt different, lighter, warmer, free of obligations disguised as love. We weren't missing anything. We were finally whole. Winter came back around before I realized it. One evening, Ellie and I were decorating our small tree, the living room glowing with soft yellow light. She reached the box and pulled out a new ornament, a tiny gold unicorn she'd saved her allowance to buy. She hung it carefully on a branch, stepped back, and smiled like she'd a treasure in the world. Do you like it, Mom? She asked. I love it, I told her. And I meant it? Because standing there watching her glow in the warmth of our home, I understood something clearly. Family isn't defined by who shares your blood. It's defined by who shows up, who protects, who loves without conditions or excuses. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the people who refuse to do any of that. We didn't lose anything when we cut ties. We gained peace. We gained freedom. We gained us. If you've ever had to set boundaries with your own family, if you've ever had to choose your peace over their chaos, tell me in the comments. I promise you're not alone. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.